Welcome to Nomad's Tales Studio.
Can you imagine floating weightless, like a satellite in the black sky? I dream about things way beyond this atmosphere.
Alpha's mission. Back on Earth, Alpha stood in the Paranormal Unit's briefing room, staring at a hologram of the latest data. Captain Whitlock paced nearby, her frustration evident. Rift activity has gone silent, she said. That should be good news, but instead, we're getting spikes of anomalous energy across the globe. Alpha leaned on the table, studying the data. Different signatures? Whitlock nodded. Nothing like we see before. Some are elemental, others biological. Whatever these are, they're not coming from the rift and they're moving. Alpha's eyes narrowed. How many incidents? 7 confirmed, Whitlock replied, and growing. Alpha stood, his rifle slung across his back. We need to get ahead of this before it turns into another Umbra 7. Send me the coordinates, I'll take a team. Whitlock hesitated. You've been pushing yourself too hard since. Alpha cut her out. We don't have time, Captain. Whatever's coming, we have to stop it. Shadow blades forming in his hands. Destroy what exactly? A deep growl rumbled from the vortex as something began to push through. A massive creature, its body a mass of writhing tendrils and glowing, crystalline appendages emerged. Its many eyes burned with hatred, and its roar shook the void. Spectre tensed. That! The creature charged, its tendrils lashing out with lightning speed. Spectre phased into the shadows, reappearing behind it and driving its blades into its back. The creature howled but retaliated, striking him with a crystalline limb. You could have warned me it could hit like a truck, Spectre shouted, rolling to his feet. You are my weapon, the Shadow Lord replied. Weapons are forged in battle. Spectre growled but focused on the fight. He darted in and out of the creature's reach, his shadowy form blending seamlessly with the void. He struck with precision, his blades cutting through the creature's crystalline armor. Finally, with roar defiance, Spectre drove his blades into the creature's core, shattering it. The beast let out a final echoing wail before dissolving into nothingness. Spectre stood over the fading remains, breathing heavily. That's one down. How many more? The Shadow Lord's laughter echoed around it. As many as it takes. Convergence. Weeks later, Alpha and his team arrived at the site of the latest anomaly, a remote island off the coast. The air was thick with tension as they moved through the dense jungle, their sensors crackling with interference. Anything on the scanners? Asked Alpha, his voice low. One of his operatives nodded. Energy signature is off the charts, sir. Whatever's here, it's big. The team emerged into a clearing, and what they saw made their blood run cold. A massive rift-like structure pulsed in the center of the clearing, but it wasn't entirely like the rifts they'd encountered before. Its energy was darker, heavier, and it seemed to twist the very air around it. And standing in the shadow was Spectre. Alpha froze. Spectre? Spectre turned, a shadowy form, more alien than human. His eyes glowed vaguely as he regarded Alpha. You always were a step behind. Alpha raised his rifle. What's going on here? Are you working for the Rift now? Spectre chuckled, shaking his head. Not the Rift, something bigger. Before Alpha could respond, the anomaly surged, and another creature began to emerge, larger and more twisted than anything they'd seen. Spectre's expression hardened. We don't have time for this, Alpha. You want to stop this thing? You'll need me. Alpha hesitated, but nodded. We'll deal with you later. Right now, we focus on that. The war ahead. Back at the base, Alpha stared at the hologram of the latest incident, his thoughts racing. Spectre's alive, he said to Whitlock. She raised an eyebrow. Alive? Or something else? Alpha clenched his fists. I don't know, but whatever he's involved in, we need to be ready. This isn't over. Far away in the void, the Shadow Lord watched as Spectre returned. You hesitate, Ed said. Spectre shook his head. I'm doing what needs to be done. But if you think I'm going to follow orders blindly, think again. The Shadow Lord's laughter echoed once more. Good. A weapon with a mind of its own is far more dangerous, and we have much work to do. As the White whispered of new threats, Spectre prepared himself for the battles ahead, caught between the light of his past and the darkness of his future. The Paranormal Unit's operations room buzzed with tension. Holographic displays filled the space, each one projecting strange, chaotic energy signatures across the globe. Captain Whitlock stood at the center, her face illuminated by the red glow of the emergency grid. Alpha entered the room, his armor still bearing the scars of the last mission. What's the situation? He asked, his voice firm. Whitlock didn't look up. We're tracking a surge of anomalies. Whatever Spectre is dealing with, it's spilling over into our world. She gestured to one of the screens. This one's in the Arctic. High-risk reading, but with something different. Alpha folded his arms. He's trying to handle it alone. That's not going to work. Whitlock turned to face him, her expression unreadable. You trust him? Alpha hesitated. Not yet, but I know him. If Spectre says this is bigger than us, we need to be there. Whitlock nodded reluctantly. Then take the team. Find out what he's really up to, and if he's crossed the line, you take him down. The Arctic Anomaly. The Paranormal Unit's VTOL roared over the frozen expanse of the Arctic, its engines cutting through the howling wind. Inside, Alpha and his team prepared for deployment. Sergeant King, the squad's demolition expert, checked his gear. So Spectre's alive, huh? Thought he'd gone full dark side. Alpha shook his head. He's playing a dangerous game, but he hasn't turned. Not yet. Private Rios, the team's tech specialist, adjusted her visor. How do we even fight something that comes from the void? We're out of our league here. Alpha's voice was steady. We adapt. That's what we do. And this time, we're not fighting alone. The VTOL touched down near the anomaly site, a jagged, glowing rift carved into the ice. Shadows rippled unnaturally around it, and the temperature dropped even further as they approached. Spectre was already there. The Shadows Unite. Chapter 6. Supplemental Entry. The howling Arctic winds battered at Paranormal Unit's VTOL as it descended onto the frozen tundra. Below, jagged cracks radiated from a glowing anomaly embedded in the ice, pulsating with ominous energy. Shadows danced unnaturally around the fissures, moving as though alive. Alpha and his team were silent as they prepared for deployment. Their mission brief had been clear: investigate and neutralize the anomaly. What it hadn't prepared for them was the figure waiting at its edge, Spectre. He approached. Sergeant Kane was the first to speak as the team disembarked, his voice gruff against the wind. Well, I'll be damned. It's him. Spectre stood at the edge of the rift, a shadowy form flickering in the dim light. He didn't turn as they approached, his focus locked on the swirling void before him. Spectre, Alpha called out, his rifle at the ready. Spectre finally turned, his glowing eyes beating Alpha's. A fake smirk crossed his face. You brought back up. Smart. You're going to need it. Alpha gripped on his weapon tightened. We're here to stop this. If you're working against us... I'm not, Spectre interrupted, his tone sharp. But this is bigger than you, Alpha. Bigger than all of us. I'm trying to stop something that makes the rift look like child's play. Sergeant Cade stepped forward, his demolition gear clicking. Yeah, then maybe you should start explaining before we decide whether to shoot you or help you. Spectre's smirk faded. He gestured to the rift. This isn't a standard rift anomaly. It's a breach. Something on the other side is trying to push through, and if it succeeds, he trailed off, his expression grim. You'll have a world left to protect. Alpha exchanged a glance with his team before nodding. All right, Spectre. We'll play along for now. What's the plan? Into the shadows. The ground shook as the ridge surged, cracks spreading across the ice. From the depths of the breach, a monstrous creature began to emerge. It was massive. Its form a chaotic blend of shadow and crystalline appendages, its many eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Plan simple, Spectre said, summoning a shadow blaze. We kill that thing before it stabilizes. Alfred turned to his team. Reels, scan for weaknesses. Kane, get those explosives ready. Harper, you're on Overwatch. Let's move. The thing sprang into action as the creature roared. Its tendrils slashed out, slamming into the ice. Alpha opened fire, his rounds finding their mark, but barely slowing the beast. Spectre darted forward, his movements fluid and otherworldly. His blades slashed through the creature's tendrils, severing them with precision. Keep it busy, Jill shouted, her eyes glowing, as she analyzed the creature. Its core is exposed when it attacks. Aim for the chest. Easier said than done, Kane yelled, narrowly dodging a crystalline gleam that shattered the ice beside him. Alpha gritted his teeth, taking careful aim. Kane, get a charge on its core. We'll cover. The Rift Champion returns. As the team worked to bring down the creature, the shadows around the rift began to shift. A familiar, hulking figure emerged. A new Rift Champion, larger and more menacing than the one Alpha and Spectre had faced in Alpha 7. Spectre froze for a moment, his expression darkening. You gotta be kidding me. Alpha cursed under his breath. Harper, keep an eye on that thing. Everyone else focus fire on the big one. The Rift Champion charged, its tendrils and crystalline limbs wreaking havoc. Spectre met it head-on, his blades colliding with its corrupt form. I'll handle it, Spectre shouted. You take the breach. Not alone you're not, Alpha growled, furry at the champion's legs to slow it down. The champion roared, knocking Spectre aside with a powerful blow. It turned its glowing eyes on Alpha, lashing out with a tendril. Alpha dove out of the way, narrowing avoiding the attack. You're stubborn, I'll give you that, Spectre muttered, phasing back into the fight. A core strike. Meanwhile, Kane managed to plant an explosive charge on the creature's chest, just as Rios had instructed. Charger set, get clear. Alpha barked orders. Fall back, Kane, blow it. Kane detonated the charge, the explosion ripping through the creature's core, and let out an unearthly screech before collapsing, its body dissolving into the ice. But there was no time to celebrate. The Rift Champion, weakened but still standing, roared in defiance. Spectre glanced at Alpha. I'll hold it off. You'll seal the breach. You'll die, Alpha said bluntly. Spectre smirked. Wouldn't be the first time. The final stand. As Alpha's team worked to stabilize the breach using a Rift Disruptor, Spectre engaged the champion in a brutal duel. His shadow blades clashed against its crystalline limbs, each strike resonating with the sound of shattering glass. The champion lashed out with a massive tendril, catching Spectre in the side and slamming him into the ice. He caught, his form flickering. Come on, he muttered, rising to his feet. You think I'm scared of you? Summoning every ounce of shadow energy, Spectre lunged forward, driving his blade into the champion's chest. The creature howled, its form destabilizing, as Spectre poured his power into the strike. Alpha, Spectre shouted, it's now or never. Victory and sacrifice. Alpha and his team activated the rift disruptor. The breach flared with light, its centrals collapsing inward as the device forced it to close. The champion let out one final roar before disintegrating, its body consumed by the collapsing breach. As the rift sealed, the archer fell silent once more. Alpha turned to where Spectre had been, but the shadow operator was gone.